Imagine a world where firefighters, grocery store clerks, bus drivers, sweepers, mechanics, nurses, and teachers disappear. The results would probably be a disaster. Public services would fall apart, and we would no longer have education, health, and other basic services that we consider guaranteed. Now imagine that those who disappeared were political consultants, lawyers who work for large companies, marketing gurus, and investors. Would anyone care more than their loved ones? Most likely not. The great irony recalls anarchist anthropologist David Graeber,
It's a strange thing.
a former Yale professor and currently on staff at the London School of Economics, is that the first group of workers is terribly lower paid than the second.
Oh my God.
As if, perversely, the more necessary your employment is for society, the less remuneration it will receive, and the more expendable it is, the more economic and labor benefits it will receive, with the very few exceptions such as doctors. This division between the real jobs and lying jobs is the basis of the famous theory of bullshit jobs, absurd, lies, or posture jobs, in the absence of another better term, which first appeared in a viral article in 2013 and just taken the form of a book under the forceful title, Bullshit Jobs, A Theory. What exactly do they consist of? It's a job that if a person who carries it out considers useless, and that if it did not exist, it would not change the world to a better place. What are they usually? Graeber prefers everyone to judge for themselves, but they suspiciously resemble white-collar office management jobs, which produce nothing in particular. They are prestigious and aspirational positions that could disappear completely and no one would miss them. What does a bullshit job mean? A bullshit job is a form of paid employment that is unnecessary, meaningless, or pernicious, that even an employee cannot justify its existence, even though, as part of the terms of employment, the employee feels compelled to pretend otherwise. Of course, bullshit jobs can be categorized. A person may be doing something very useful and necessary for 4 hours each day, but this person feels compelled to stay at work for 8 hours of the day. This would be a partial bullshit job, possibly the most common bullshit job even in office jobs. To understand this better, Graeber divides bullshit jobs into 5 different categories. Flunkies, workers whose sole occupation is to enhance the importance of another. A flunky would be someone whose occupation is to enhance the status of another person. For example, secretaries or receptionists, when their work isn't really necessary and doesn't take up more than an hour of a day. Goons, anyone whose job it is to be aggressive in the service of another. Telemarketing exudes this. These jobs potentially benefit the company. That's why Graeber differentiates them from flunkies, clarifying that goons can be useful in their own thing, but in the whole industry set up around them, they can be useless. They are jobs that are created just because the competition has someone doing them and chasing your customers with telemarketing, so you need to do just the same thing. Duct Tapers, those workers who spend their working day fixing problems that should not exist. They only exist because of the mistakes made by the organization that employs them. That is, because the bosses don't care and instead of doing their own job, they prefer to have other people do it for them. Box tickers, supervisors, this refers to employees who exist only so that the organization can claim to be doing something that it's not actually doing. They usually develop elaborate rituals to pretend they're dealing with a problem, and the more useless they are, the more elaborate the ritual. Taskmasters, the organizers, the people whose job it is to assign work to others. They are necessary because the others know each other and know exactly how to divide up the work. At worst, they are harmful because they create and multiply work for bullshit to justify their own existence. Examples are filling out paperwork for management, unnecessary meetings, administrative emails, and other bullshit that seems to take up half your work. Do you have a job that you secretly believe is pointless? As you can see, there are many jobs that can be defined as bullshit jobs, and maybe you have a job that you secretly believe is pointless and you are not the only one. Using nothing more than YouGov Online surveys, they figure out that 50% of workers directly think their jobs are useless. Graeber believes if we reorganize and eliminate useless jobs, we have work weeks of 15 to 20 hours without reducing production. Graeber argues that there are millions of people across the world, clerical workers, administrators, consultants, telemarketers, corporate lawyers, service professionals, and many others, who are toiling away in meaningless, unnecessarily jobs, and they know it. It didn't have to be this way, Graeber says. Technology has advanced to a point where most of the difficult labor-intensive jobs can be performed by machines. But instead of freeing ourselves from the suffocating 40-hour work week, we've invented a whole universe of futile occupations that professionally are unsatisfying and spiritually empty. So, why are bullshit jobs bad for your health? You might ask, but why would an unnecessary job where you do nothing and get paid for it be bad for your health? Who wouldn't want that? And here's the answer. Imagine having to pretend to work all day and having the need to pretend to be useful, to pretend to do something, when in reality you don't do anything just to fool the boss and all above yourself. That's psychological torture. The explosion of bullshit jobs in the late 70s and early 80s coincided with the spectacular increase in cases of mental health and depression. This may even have led to the birth rate drop in the Western world, which around the same time was happening to the bullshit jobs. When you feel bad every day and useless at your job, you don't even want to bring children into the world. Graeber resorts to an interesting comparative, the Soviet Gulag. It turns out that the Gulag people were tortured. Of course, the torture was not so much physical labor, hard no doubt, but no worse than that a minor peasant or in a capitalist economy. But the fact is that such labor was blatantly useless, kind of like digging a hole and filling it up again. By doing useless work, prisoners were made to feel that they were useless. They were denied the ability to positively influence the world. And a fundamental human need is to feel complete, because what most people really do want to believe is that they're contributing to something in the world in some way. If you deny that to them, they're going to go crazy or quietly become miserable. How to avoid a bullshit job? So ask yourself what it means to you to have a job that makes you happy and fulfills your life. When you find something you really love to do and are passionate about learning more and trying to keep growing and giving value to others with your knowledge, you're not going to give up. You're going to find a way around obstacles and you're going to keep going. I can tell you a little bit about my experience over the years. At the beginning, I didn't feel good about the jobs I had. My first 2 jobs I was working at were in factories. First making computer power adapters in an assembly line, and then at a concrete factory making walls for Walmart. I'm not sure it qualifies as bullshit job, but it was manual labor and not mentally stimulating. What I know is that the days would take forever because your mind isn't working well and you just want the day to end as fast as possible. And it's completely different when you have a good job. By the end of the day, it will fly by because you're engaged and love what you're doing. And when I saw others around me who were 40 or to 60 years old and doing the same thing and hating their life, I knew I had to get an education and move on and learn for me what type of work would value me. For me, it's most important to have a job that makes me happy, not just for the money. After earning my MBA, the average starting salary was $90,000 per year, and when I left to start my own business, I barely made $30,000. But to me, happiness is pursuing something that you want to do with your life and time. There's a statistic that happiness doesn't materially go up after you make $70,000 a year. The meaning of that is money doesn't buy happiness. When you look at spending money, the return on happiness is when you spend on experiences, trips, events with family, sharing good times with friends and people that you love, and not when you spend money on things, cars, clothes, and luxury items. So if you have a bullshit job and don't know how to find purpose and meaningful work, this is something I want to tell you. You just have one life to live. Ask yourself what you're passionate about and what do you want to do with your life. Start making your plan on how to make it happen and don't lose track. I sold everything I owned and left the USA to start the first kombucha brewery in Medellin, Colombia. It didn't happen overnight. I made a 2-year plan and wrote down the goal and looked at it every day. After 2 years, it happened. I moved and I followed my dream. It's been a roller coaster, and of course things didn't play out exactly like I imagined, but I'm 100% more happier than I've ever been, and I have 0 plans on returning to the USA. Now, ask yourself, what type of job would you want to have or create? Just think about it. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll be happy to read and respond. That's it for today. If you're interested in entrepreneurship and want to hear tips and tricks, like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be the first to know when a new video drops. I'll see you in the next vid. Ciao!